Hello, welcome to Ephemera Files by Tommy, and we are still working in our Mildred's Roses journal, and today we are going to work on prepping the printed pages from the kit. My journal, the cover is small. I believe it was 4 3/4, yes, by 7, and so my individual pages need to be 4 1/2 because I will do things on the edges by 7 so that it will reach the top and the bottom. So my computer, I explained in another video, printed fit to page. So it's a little bit harder to work with. It's not already the right size or even close to the right size, so I'm having to finagle. So I went through and made some notes on some of the pages I need to tear. We'll go through those in a minute. These I already tore. Sorry, I have to move things out of the way. And folded in, I just made just a random stack and folded them in opposite directions so I could make sure that I didn't have everything facing one way. And I went ahead and did that through this whole stack, doing the tear at the top and the bottom, but not on the sides because I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the sides yet. The printed portion of this measures just about 4 inches on most of them. Some of them I folded a little differently. Like this one, I didn't want to cut the bird's tail off, so this is shorter. And I will end up folding this edge down so that it is within the 4 1/2 inches to be in the journal. So I'm going to show you how I went about doing that and a little bit of the figuring that goes into getting these printed pages prepped. Yes, I like alliteration. If you haven't seen that before, you'll know it by the end. I have all of these that I already tore that will be note cards and such, and I have these pages that I'm undecided on. I went through and did some alterations to the pages. I used a watercolor effect on some of them to give it a looser feel. And then I have this postcard. I'm going to set all these to the side. These are my extra pages. They're all dyed, or they are mulberry papers, floral papers, vellum, that flocked paper. And those I will use in another video to make either pages on their own, or I'll show you how to take care of the white background pages. So I went ahead and made myself some notes on these pages. And on these pages, these are not part of the kit. These are from my shop, I think, for the most part. And we'll go to them in just a few minutes. Now, I had one that was just straight tearing. Here we go. And let's just start with that. I have my ruler. And on this one, the page is just too big. Like I said, my double fold needs to be 9 by 7, and this is larger than that. So I went ahead and made myself notes, and I'm going to tear 3/4 inch from the sides at the printed edge. And that doesn't have to be perfectly on that. Oops. Oh my goodness, I can't pick up my ruler. And so I'm just going to lay my ruler down and try to get it as straight as I can, but I'm not going for perfection. And I will keep this because I will use that in other areas. Then we'll do the same thing over here in 3/4 inch. Actually, I'm going to make that just a little bit further out so I don't tear off the whole butterfly. This is one of the pages that I don't know, it's really pretty, but it's not really centered, and I'm having trouble trying to figure out exactly what I'm going to do with it. So I will figure that out as we go along. And then I'm going to tear 1/2 inch from the top and the bottom at the printed edge because I need it to be 7 inches, which is right about there. So at 1/2 inch, right there. Thankfully this one has a little line dot in the background that kind of helps me get it straightened out. And then again, 1/2 inch from the print, right there. And you'll notice I'm not being real precise because I'm not really worried about precision in this journal. I almost put that in the wrong place. Now this one is a little different because these are tuberous begonias. They're not roses, and I'm kind of focusing on the roses. So I'm going to tear in a different way on this one. I'm going to tear it 1 inch from the printed bottom edge. You'll notice that that's different. I didn't do it at 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch because I'm not going to tear any off the top except for the white line. And that's because I'm not going to use this begonias portion. I do suggest if you are on a hard surface and you're tearing with a ruler, have something at the underneath that is not slick, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult. At least it is for me. It's going to be difficult to tear your pages the way that you want to. The mountain I'm going to throw away. I don't really have a use for it, and I already have too much stuff. So, to take care of this begonias part, I am actually going to tear at this blue edge up to about here, and then I'm going to swerve over and come over right about here to get all of that writing and some of the ink splotches in there. And I may have to trim it up a little bit more once I try to put it in the book, or I may have to fold, or a multitude of any other things. And then this is going to be a free-form tear. And like I said, I don't know right now what I'm going to do with this torn edge, but I do know that I kind of like that idea. I will save this. And so now that measures, it's still a little over 9, but I'll figure out something to do with it. And that's going to make a very cool page, I think. For this one, I would lose so much if I just tore off in and in and in and in to make it 9 by 7. So on the right side, I'm going to tear 1/2 inch from the printed edge, and that loses none of the rows and very little of the writing. Oh, my thumb shifted. And that's going to happen. But again, we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for beauty. So the next one is 1/2 inch from the printed edge at the top and at the bottom. Right about there. Let's scoot up here a little bit more in frame. I think my thumb is getting in the way, and I think that's what my problem is when it's coming to tearing. And the bottom was also 1/2 inch. I am trying to be as prepared as I can be for these videos so that you don't have to see me hunt for things or try to figure out a length or a yes. Okay, so this one is tearing at 4 1/4, right there, from the left printed edge. Because of the way this page is printed, I would lose so much that I'm just going to do this. I will use this rose elsewhere because it's gorgeous. And then this is going to be folded at 4.5 inches from the right torn edge, right there. I'm just going to put a little notch there. And then when I do my signatures, I will be sewing through that, and I will have something attached over here to complete the page on that side. Sometimes you have to do some math and figuring. Now this one is a little different. I'm tearing it 1/2 inch from the right printed edge, but I'm going to stop just before I get to the frame, and I'm going to end up fussy cutting, put an extra N in there, around this frame for a small portion. So this is how I'm going to do that. 1 inch from the right printed edge is going to be right here. And I'm going to very carefully tear to the point of the frame where I will begin fussy cutting. See that? I stopped the tear right there on that flourish. And I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. There we go. There is that. And for now, I am just going to snip off fairly close. I will come back in and fussy cut. But this way, those two flaps are not getting in my way of the other things I'm trying to do. I'll go ahead and cut that down just a little further. There we go. And then I'm going to tear at the printed left edge here. Turn my paper upside down, it might be a little easier for me. And then I'm going to tear 1/2 inch from the top and bottom at the printed edge. Make sure that my thumb is out of the way this time. And then 1/2 inch from the bottom. This right here is going to either become a tab or it will become a hinge or something similar that will wrap around the page onto the back. And I'll come back and fussy cut that later. I'm leaving my notes. I'm leaving my post-it notes on the papers as I tear them so that when I need to go back and refer to what I was thinking about, I haven't forgotten, or if I have forgotten, I can figure it out. This one's simple. It's going to be a cut, 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 cut. These are not roses. They are tuberous begonias, and I think that that is as well. So I'm probably going to cover up part of those flowers or add roses to those bouquets. So we need to tear each end at 3/4 of an inch from the printed edge. Which just happens to be on this side, the edge of the paper. Easy to line up my ruler on that. And 3/4 of an inch on this side. That is the simplest one, I believe. Now, I made a note on this one because the bird's tail, if I just do like I did on this one and just tear evenly all the way across, that tail is going to be just sticking out on the other side of the page with no rhyme or reason. So the fold of the page is going to be at the right of the bird's tail. And then the excess over here on the left will be folded. So I'm going to tear the sides at the printed edge, and then I'm going to tear the top and the bottom 1/2 inch. Okay, this one, I wrote, this was the first one I tried to figure out what I was doing. So I have multiple notes on here, but I already did the other frame where I left the edge of the frame intact. That's the same thing I'm doing on here. And I know that I'm going to mark it right there. And so I will just line up on the bottom of that flourish and tear in to meet the flourish. Just like that. And again, I'll come in with my scissors and take care of those flaps. I'm going to come back in and fussy cut, but I'm not going to make you watch me fussy cut. And let's see, tear at 9 inches from the opposite fold. So that meant that I'm just taking off, I mean, just a little bit. It's 3/16 of an inch, which also I had already lined up that Post-it note with where it needed to be. And there is that. So these are my prepped pages that I printed from Lindsay's Kits, along with these that I have not, like I said, I left the white edges on because some of them will need a place to add lace or ribbon. Some of them are going to be folded differently, but I have already torn those except for those side edges that I'm not sure what I need yet. These are papers from my shop, and I'm going to tear these at the printed edges, but I may need to tear further once I go to put them into the book, because what I will do with these is use them to back some of these printed pages, because I'm not a fan of just plain white pages on the back. And so I may need to adjust them to fit, but I would prefer to just go ahead and have this part ready. And these are just on plain printer paper. They're not as thick as the cardstock, so it's a little harder to tear them like this. You would not think it would be, but it is. So I'm just going to go in and hand tear this corner. And then I'll have to make sure and shift my hand when I'm doing this one so that I'm pressing down all the way as I tear. Because I think what happened with that last one was it shifted when I got away from my hand. So I need to make sure that I've got pressure firmly all the way through there. And these pages will be ready to go as well. So I'm going to go ahead and tear the rest of these pages. And then we will go on from there. So here are my printed pages, and I hope that you learned something. I hope that you are enjoying this journey with me through making this journal, and I would like to remind you to be kind always. Bye.